Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, it appears we have a quorum if you want to start things off at your leisure.
Excellent. We'd like to welcome everyone to the May 11th, 2023 Landmarks Commission meeting. It's great to see everyone today. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law and section 101.021 of the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rule of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Recusal from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raised hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking the raised hand icon again and muting your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Calling users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activities are being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter submitted through the proper channels have been considered. Proper channels for comments are sending an email to landmarks@clevelandohio.gov email address with a comment or a letter, calling and or leaving a message at 216-664-2532, or sending a letter or dropping off comments at City Hall located at 601 Lakeside Avenue, Suite 519. Communications with members of this body must follow proper channels for consideration. Any comments received by the stated deadline are collected by Landmark staff and disseminated to the commission members prior to any scheduled meeting. Mr. Musson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Going over the virtual meeting rules and procedures, the chair will call each agenda item and then each applicant will be invited to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the commission in order to facilitate a smooth presentation. Once the presentation has concluded, the chair will ask Landmark staff to summarize Design Review Committee recommendations and any public comments received. The deadline for public comments is noon on the Tuesday prior to any regularly scheduled Cleveland Landmarks Commission meeting. Any received comments are distributed to the commission members prior to the meeting. Staff will also identify any members of the public present scheduled to speak. Public comment is allowed at the discretion of the chair, and any individual providing public comment is permitted 2 minutes to speak to the agenda item in which they have an interest. The chair will then request a recommendation from staff. The commission will then begin deliberations and project review. Any commission member except the chair may make a motion at any point after an agenda item has been called.
We'd like to call the May 11th, 2023 Landmarks Commission meeting to order. Mr. Musson, please call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Benezzi?
Here.
Mr. Clicchia?
Here.
Mr. Dreyer?
Here.
Mr. Edmond?
Here.
Councilmember Gray? Director Wong? Mr. Strickland? Mr. Trosick?
Here.
And Ms. Trott. Madam Chair, we have quorum. In addition to the commission members, we have Kevin Roberts, a representative from the Law Department, as well as Jessica Beam, Carl Bringes, and myself from the Landmarks office present. I'd also just like to note a few changes to the agenda that was sent out last week. Case 23-045, 2901 Whitman Avenue is being postponed at the request of the applicant. And the last agenda item, the Greyhound Bus Station landmark nomination, is being postponed at the request of the council member.
Excellent. Thank you for those updates. We'll begin with our certificates of appropriateness. We'd like to welcome the first applicant to unmute your mic, announce yourself, and please tell us about your project. Are they here?
Madam Chair, I don't see them in the list of participants at this moment, so I guess maybe we could move on to the next item and I guess try calling them later.
All right, and we'll move on to the third applicant or third case, located at 1512 East 106th Street, window replacement.
Good morning, Landmarks Commission. My name is Ben Greenberg, and I'm one of the owners of 1512. Well, I'm not an owner, I'm the court-appointed receiver of 1512 East 106. And with me on the phone, I have Don Laster, who's my general contractor. The other receiver, Spiro Sintasermis, and I'm not sure if we have another representative from the general contractor, Ryan Ross. This is a house that's sat vacant for about 8 to 10 years. We sued under the city nuisance abatement, and were appointed by the municipal court as a receiver to abate the nuisance. We are in the process of doing that. I tell you that as important information, partly because everything we do has a very restricted timeline based on the municipal court, but also a very restricted budget. And that's an important part of this. What we're asking to do is, if you'll note, this is a picture of the house. We've already cleaned up the exterior some. We're still doing a lot more. Obviously, we're going to paint it. But you'll notice that the original wood windows are on the first floor. They all have lead, which is another consideration in this. And then the second and third floor have really low quality vinyl windows already. So, and that's the exterior. And we do have additional pictures we can show you. That's a picture of another house you can see on the street. That's 2 doors down where they have vinyl windows and original windows on the first floor. Second and third are replacement. But what we're asking the court to do, let's see. This is also on the street. You can see here again, replacement windows on the second and third floor, original windows on the first floor. This is another house, all replacement vinyl windows, on the entire house. This is again a combination of windows. The same thing on the street. This is on the next street over, which is East 107, another historic street. A street in much better condition, by the way, a lot more renovated houses. Same thing, East 107, East 107, East 107, East 107. This was just renovated, East 107, and back to 1512. And we, is it possible, whoever's advancing, there we go. There's the side. If we could just show that more of 1512, you can see the houses in pretty terrible condition. At this point, we've already we have permits for. I should back up. There's nothing savable in this house except the walls, and we're down to the studs. We have permits and our plan is to use enterprise green standards for tax abatement purposes, but also, we just think it's the right thing to do. If you'll note, almost all the windows on the first floor are old lead painted windows. Many on the second floor are the same, but there are other vinyl windows. So we think from the standpoint of cost, because we literally have to put in all new HVAC, all new electrical, all new plumbing, new kitchens, new baths, fix the exterior, rebuild the garage. We're bumping up against $275,000 budget already on this house, and we're about we'll be 1-to-1 on its value soon. So we're really sensitive to both time, budget, and the fact that it does the rest of the street. The houses that have been renovated with vinyl windows. We plan to use nice quality vinyl windows. We plan to paint the house historic colors. So we're asking for permission to put in vinyl windows. I'm sure you'll have other questions as you look through this, but by the way, that repair on the porch is not us. That's totally not us. So, but you can see those are the side windows here are plastic. They're not. They're like a plastic laminate. This is an original window. We do have it boarded up from the inside because we hate boarded up outside windows. But that's an original window. It has no mullions in it. These are original windows, no mullions in them. We were planning to replace like with like. If they didn't have mullions, we're not going to put mullions in. This is another window. We do have pictures of other permits now. This is an older picture. And you can see what we provided to the previous group. So I guess to summarize, before I ask if there are any questions, for our purposes, we think we have budgetary considerations, we have time considerations, we have health considerations, removing lead-based windows, and we also have court-appointed budget and time considerations as well. I'm glad to answer any questions anyone would have on this. And of course, I have my partner, Spiros Sintaseramis, and Don Laster and Ryan Ross, the general contractors, on the phone as well.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. We'll begin with design review recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This project was reviewed by the Magnolia Wade Park East Boulevard Greenwood Allotments Design Review Committee on the 5th. They did not have quorum, and they did discuss the siding repairs, if there were any, paint colors to the home, and discussed a preference for higher quality replacement on the front facade of the home in aluminum clad wood, composite, or fiberglass, and were in approval or support of replacing the windows on the rear and sides with vinyl.
Thank you. And staff recommendations?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff would prefer to see an aluminum clad or some sort of composite window on the front elevation of the home, but given the style and color scheme that's being proposed, we feel the white color is appropriate. Staff would recommend approval of the vinyl windows for the sides and rear, and a conditional approval that would say that if the applicant could work with staff to find a solution for the front of the home. So basically giving staff the ability to make the call that if the applicant can demonstrate that an upgraded treatment on the front of the house is cost prohibitive, we'd have the flexibility and option to approve vinyl in this instance.
Excellent. Thank you for that recommendation. We'll then open the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Who would like to start us off?
Oh, excuse me. I'm not sure if I'm out of order, but I forgot to mention that we did price out aluminum clad and wood and composite windows, and we learned that they were about 3 times the price of vinyl windows, which is why I said they were so we did do that ahead of time. So I just wanted to make sure I was more clear on that. I apologize for interrupting.
We appreciate the additional information. We will then move back to commission on questions and comments. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple questions. Who is Riverstone Metro LLC?
So this is a receivership case, and while we had a Liz pendens filed, there was a foreclosure proceeding, and the foreclosure went to I'm not quite sure the whole legal part of this, so I'm going to describe it the best I can. But the house was sold at foreclosure to that group, but then the county undid it because we had a pending court case. And since that point, we were appointed receiver to do that. So the county's just catching up on its records.
Okay, I see a sheriff's sale in Cuyahoga County on June 6, 2022 to Emmett Inc. And then the house was listed and sold. It was listed last August and sold for 122, 125 to the Riverstone Metro LLC with a warranty deed. And it's currently on the market for 159,000.
That's all invalidated because of the Liz pendens, and we are the court appointed receiver. So we are renovating, and we're using. I don't know if anyone on the commission knows Matt Yorkovich, who is our attorney, but we are the court appointed receiver. All of that was done, but it's all been undone. Unfortunately, the the gentleman who bought the house, I mean, he does have a case against the title company because he paid cash, and the other company disappeared. It was one of those, typical coming into the neighborhood, buying a house, flipping it, but because we had a Liz pendens, that superseded everything and unwound the foreclosure. And we are, again, the court-appointed receiver. And we can provide staff documentation to that fact that we are court-appointed.
Well, Emmett Inc. does exactly that. They do go in and pick up homes at sheriff's sales and just flip them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
They do that. I don't know much about Riverstone Metro LLC. And this is kind of an aside, but I want to bring it up. The interior of that home has some beautiful woodwork, beautiful natural woodwork, built-ins, fireplace mantle, nice staircase, all natural wood.
All of which is being saved.
Okay,
Ms. Anderson. Yeah, there is some woodwork that we're not saving because one had been painted with the lead is actually less important. It was just destroyed. But we're saving. We've saved the mantle. We've saved almost all of the woodwork.
There's some nice columns in there. There's some cool stuff.
All those columns are saved. Yeah, all that is. Well, we're not historic preservationists. We love old homes, so we're going to save what we can. The kitchen wasn't. There was nothing historic about it, but the kitchen was a disaster. There was nothing to save. But the dining room has beautiful cabinetry and this beautiful. What is it called? A seat right by the window. The window seat. Yeah,
The window seat.
These are gorgeous items that have never been painted. We're not touching those. They have
Wonderful.
these beautiful doors. What are the
Doors?
pocket doors? Oh gosh, we're not touching those. In fact, we're repairing those to work.
That is
Because what
excellent to hear
beautiful.
about everything you're doing on the interior. And we appreciate that you're focused on helping to, maintain or restore the interior like the exterior. I want to just keep us focused on what we are here to review today, because we do appreciate the update, but we want to stay in the areas we have the jurisdiction or the areas that we are commenting on, which is the window replacement that's in front of us. So Ms. Anderson, do you have some additional comments on the windows?
You know, I think given that, the unique situation here, and it sounds like the applicant's heart is in the right place. I may be open to making some accommodation with them on the windows. So that's my comments. Thank you very
Excellent.
much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll insert my comments. I agree with Ms. Anderson. I appreciate that you're trying to restore this house and understand the situation. So I personally agree with staff's recommendation of approval of vinyl on the 3 sides, the 2 sides in the rear, I should say, of the house, but working with staff to finalize materiality of the front. Because our typical requirement is a wood or aluminum clad window in those circumstances. But knowing the situation, I personally support allowing you to work with staff to finalize what that material will be on the front of the house. Other feedback from commission members? Not seeing any. Would someone like to put forward a motion? Ms. Anderson?
I move that we approve as presented in this one instance, due to the scope of the work and the hardship. And that's my motion. Any
conditions? Do you want to align with staff with the recommendation to work with them on the front elevation?
Absolutely, yes.
So the motion is on the table. Do we have a second? Mr. Dryer?
That's all second.
Thank you, Mr. Dryer. So the motion is on the table with the one condition to approve as presented, except for the front elevation. The applicant should work with staff to finalize material there. Any further discussion? No? All right, Mr. Musson, please call roll and announce results.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Benezzi,
Yes.
Mr. Clicchia,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Edmund,
Yes.
Councilmember Gray. Still not with us. Mr. Trasick
Yes.
and Ms. Trott.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing your the run proceed.
Thank you so much. We appreciate everyone's time and support on this. Have a great day. We're allowed to sign off now?
Yes, you are.
Great, that's great. And just one thing, staff would be Jennifer, right? We would reach out to Jennifer on this, or is there other staff we should be talking to?
Jessica?
Or Jessica, I'm sorry, Jessica. Jessica, I'm sorry to massacre your name. Do we work with Jessica? Yes, great.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Bye-bye.
Luck
Thank
with the
you.
project.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll now move to the next applicant. Is the first applicant arrived? Mr. Smith or Mr. Hingston? Mr. Musson, Mr. Brunges, you see them?
I don't see them here.
Okay.
So I think, yeah.
We will then move on to our fifth applicant on the Columbian Cultural Gardens located on Martin Luther King Drive, Phase 1 construction. I'd like to welcome the applicant. Please announce yourself and tell us about your project.
Good morning. My name is Tom Zarfas. I'm a landscape architect with Benke Landscape Architecture. We're pleased to be back before you this morning. You approved our master plan last year. We're actually going to get something in the ground, which is exciting. So you advance the, that's our present location. There's a temporary sign and some planting, and as you can see, it's a relatively flat site, a few large trees. The back end of that site is Stone Brook. Go ahead. That's the master plan. Our intent was always to make phase 1 of this what we call the Plaza Columbia, which is number 2 on that plan. And that's what we're presenting to you today. Is there any need for me to review the master plan? I mean, you've seen it before. If you have any questions about it.
Excuse me, I think you can proceed with Ian discussing phase 1.
Okay, next slide. And phase 1 is the plaza and the entry to the plaza.
Good morning. This call may be monitored and is recorded. Let's speak with Ray Harris.
Everyone else who's not presenting, please turn your mic on mute.
Are we okay?
Yes, go ahead.
So it's the plaza and the entry to the plaza. We're right on Martin Luther King Boulevard. We're right on the existing bike hike trail. It's going to be a concrete, integrally colored, stamped concrete. Everything is accessible. It's a pretty simple phase 1, but it gets us a presence there. Columbians enjoy parties and celebrating, so there'll be a place to do that and to dance, and they'll get a permanent sign and a flag, which are located right on the entry area there. The planting is not currently in our budget. We're going to raise money separately for the planting. You can go to the next page. An example of the pavement. We're looking at some benches, which again will be individually donated separate from this phase 1 project. We will have a interpretive sign in this phase 1. We're going to use the National Park Service standard. And we're still discussing exactly the material on that, but it will be a copy of the master plan, an explanation of the process, and some background on Columbia. Next slide, please. Plant material, it's pretty tough to do indigenous Columbian plant material in Cleveland. Orchids are a big thing there, and it's not possible here. So our focus is really on color. There's a lot of colorful plants in Columbia, so we want to really have a colorful planting plan and entry to the garden, and at the same time not make it too much of a maintenance burden. So that's where we're going. The plan is to begin this construction in the spring of next year when all the money is firmly in place. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Excellent. Thank you for the presentation. We'll begin with design review recommendation.
We have Lori Ashik from the Federation here.
Yes, I'm here.
Would you mind giving a report of the review that you guys did?
Yes, the design review committee of the Federation and the Federation approved the project, approved the design and the plans. I think particularly impressed by the just the effort to if not, obviously, as Tom said, they're not being able to replicate the plants in Columbia, but to stay true to the nature of the culture, which by bringing in the bright colors and the design committee was happy with the representation of the culture.
Excellent. Thank you for that summary. We'll move on to staff recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff feels that this is in keeping with the master plan that was reviewed by the commission previously, so we recommend approval as presented.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll then open up the floor to the commission members for questions and comments. Mr. Edmund?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we could go to the concept plan slide. Thank you. There's if I remember correctly, there's like a shelter or a gate at either end of the circle. Obviously, that's not part of what you're looking at for approval today, but are you planning to incorporate foundations or anything or to support that future construction, or how are you planning to move forward with the next phase, given what you're installing now?
Yeah, that's a good question. What we've tried to do is design this with some flexibility. The number 3 shelter would be, we're going to do that just off the circle I've shown you, so we don't have to fool with trying to guess what that's going to look like and install foundations for it now. And the same thing with 1 of the small shelter, and we're not sure especially not sure exactly what 1 will be at this point. So no, we feel we can accommodate those at a later date without spending a lot of money on guessing what we'll need in the way of foundations.
Thank you, Mr. Edmund. Any further questions?
Not for me, thanks.
All right, thank you. Not seeing any questions right now. I'll just ask mine. What is the size? What is the diameter of this the central area gathering area of the circle?
It's 58 feet across,
Okay.
29-foot radius.
Got it. Excellent. That does allow some area for dancing. So excellent.
Yeah, by the way, we do plan. We're going to have a meeting down there, I think in June, and I'm going to actually paint out the area on the ground so everybody in the Columbian Foundation can see exactly what this will look like. I've found over the years that everybody has a real difficulty visualizing these things. So we're going to actually paint it on the ground so people can look at it. If they wanted a couple of feet bigger or a couple of feet smaller, we could always adjust it.
Excellent. I think that is a great idea. It is hard to visualize this, such a simple design at such a large scale. So I think that makes sense. I would agree with staff that this does seem aligned with the master plan, and I recommend approval. Other questions or comments from commission members? Not seeing any. Would someone like to make a motion? Mr. Edmund?
I move that phase 1 be approved as submitted.
Excellent. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve as presented. Any further comments? All right, not seeing any. Mr. Musson, please call roll and announce the results.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Benezzi?
Yes.
Mr. Colicchio?
Yes.
Mr. Dreyer?
Yeah.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Director Wong? Mr. Trasick?
Yes.
And Ms. Trout?
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Excellent. One last question. What's the timing of moving this forward?
We're looking at construction in the spring. Everybody's so busy this year, it's hard to get a contractor even interested at this point. So, and there's a little more money raising to do. So we expect to be in the ground in the spring, and thank you all very much. We appreciate your help.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing your project move forward. We will move back then to our first applicant before we conclude our certificates of appropriateness. Have they joined us today?
Madam Chair, it does not appear they are here. So,
All right. Then that concludes our certificates of appropriateness. We'll move on to concept plan reviews. Just a reminder, concept plans are a review with feedback and no voting. The first applicant is the Scottish Cultural Gardens at 1167 East Boulevard Garden Plan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim McKnight, landscape architect. I'm serving as a volunteer for the group and also taking time off from my day job to make this presentation. Our site is directly adjacent to the British Cultural Garden up on East Boulevard. We're just to the south of the British Garden. Beautiful, significant mature trees on our site. You can see the photograph there in the upper right corner. And our plan, concept plan is on the left-hand side of your image there on the screen. We've got several features that we're suggesting that will be part of the garden. I'm going to go through the plan by number. They're keyed to the legend there at the bottom of the screen. Number one is our sign and flagpole location directly between a couple of the large oak trees on site. Number two is the Highland Rock Garden. This is what we're proposing eventually to be our phase one of the garden. Number three is the Tartan Plaza. This is about a 30 by 40 foot paver and stone plaza that will become the central gathering place for the garden for special events for One World Day and for other Scottish gatherings. Number four is the recognition of historic figures, and we'll look at some of those here in a second, but those essentially would be sculptural busts and plaque recognition of the contributions of significant Scottish figures over time. Number five is the sort of featured piece, which is the Highland Piper sculpture, and that would be a large bronze sculpture. Number six is stone benches. We obviously want to recognize the significance of stone in Scotland and replicate as best we can in our area that significant geographical and geological feature of Scotland. Number seven are Scotch pine trees that would be planted. We've got a nice situation where we have residential houses that actually face onto our garden. Those are accessible for pedestrians by a pedestrian walkway at their front doors, and their vehicular circulation is happening off an alley in the back, and those are you can see them in the background of the photograph. We've got an existing light pole and power that provides electrical and flood lighting for the space, and that is already in place. So we would actually eventually get our power off of that pole and have a separate meter for our power at the garden. Number 10 was a feature that we've added that would be a synthetic putting green, and that would be a future phase. And then number 11 just notes that there are significant existing trees on site, and all those would remain over the long term. I think we can go to the next image. Thank you. That's upper left corner is our Highland Rock Garden. This would be primarily we'd use Northeast Ohio native sandstone primarily for this. Perhaps some granite erratics would also be featured. And then the plantings would be heather, globe thistle, and sea holly, in addition to perhaps some spreading junipers as well. The Scotch pine is the tree that I mentioned. It would be a very informal character tree that would provide some evergreen backdrop between the houses and the garden. The stone seats would be more than likely be sandstone barn stones in our area. Putting green I mentioned would be a synthetic turf, so there wouldn't be maintenance involved in that. And then there's the Scottish piper right in the center of your image, and then some of the historic figures, Bobby Burns and Adam Scott and James Watt are some of the names that have come to the forefront from our committee. And then the tartan pattern, we feel as if we can duplicate something similar to a tartan with a variety of bluestone paving as the primary material, and then some courses of perpendicular lines of either brick or perhaps granite paving as well. So that would be our tartan plaza. So our first phase we'd like to do, we're currently in the fundraising stage for this entire endeavor. But the Highland Rock Garden would be our first phase together with the Tartan Plaza as suggested by the Federation's Design and Preservation Committee. I think those are the key features of our proposal at this point. Certainly entertain any questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. We'll move on to design review recommendations.
Yes, as Jim said, the Design Review Committee of the Federation reviewed it and approved it, as did our Federation Board. We're very excited about seeing this garden and all the progress that it's been being made, and very much approve the design.
Excellent. Thank you for that summary. We'll move on to staff recommendations. Jessica or Dan, go ahead.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Yeah, staff is supportive of it. We're interested to see how some of the design features pan out as they're more detailed, but it looks like an appropriate plan to us, and we're interested to see it develop.
Excellent. Thank you for that recommendation. We'll then open up the floor to the commission for questions and comments. Mr. Klickia.
I'd like to thank Mr. McKnight for taking on this project. It's a masterful plan, I have to admit. It's just, I've been to Scotland many times, and all the things that the Scottish people seem to love, you've captured. And I just want to thank you and congratulate you for this beautiful project.
So much.
Thank you, Mr. Klickia. Mr. Edmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I would certainly echo that, Jim. This is, I love how you've taken that tartan concept and turned it into something tectonic that really kind of is a central kind of placemaking element that kind of ties everything together. So I think this is terrific. And also, yeah, just echo those other comments. You didn't consider like a Hadrian's Wall between the British and the National.
That may evolve. We'll see.
Fundraising, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Klickia.
Well, I just wanted to say also that I'm a little surprised that it's south of the British Garden, not north of the British Garden. I guess it's one of those limitations of being in Cleveland. But I believe. And where the bronze sculptures coming from?
Well, that remains to be seen. I don't know yet. We'll have, that'll be a later phase and require a significant fundraising effort.
Okay, and do you know which quarry you're getting the Ohio sandstone from? Is that Amherst?
It more than likely be the Amherst quarries, yes.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, very nice.
The only question that I had, because I echo everything that my fellow colleagues have stated, I think this is a really intriguing design and appreciate you starting with natural stone, and hopefully we'll stay with the natural stone you incorporate into this, because there is such a heritage related to that. In the central area, the Tartan Plaza, the areas that are in gray, sorry if I wasn't following correctly, is that the sandstone, or will that be concrete in the central rectangular area of the pattern be the sandstone?
I think it'll be probably be the Pennsylvania bluestone for the primary grays, which you get a nice flash of some browns in that as well, and it tends to be a little harder than the Ohio Cleveland Quarry Amherst stone. I think the Amherst stone will probably be the stone benches and perhaps some of the other ancillary elements, certainly around the Highland Rock Garden. And then the banding of red could be either granite or perhaps brick pavers.
Excellent. Thank you. That's helpful to understand. But I'm in support of the project also. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a beautiful project. I wanted to say that I agree with my fellow commissioners here. I think it's a very exciting project. And I'm really pleased that you're using natural stone materials. I often drive down Martin Luther King Boulevard, and the gardens with the natural stone just works so well. I think the natural stone really complements all the greenery and the lush trees in the area. I think it's a very creative project. I like the putting green. It's what a great idea. So yeah, I totally support this. This is very exciting.
Other questions or comments from commission? All right, not seeing any. Does the applicant feel that you've received enough feedback from the commission to continue the development of your design?
I think so, yes. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And we look forward to seeing you back with when this project is moving forward.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to our next applicant, located at 1452-68 West 25th Street, the restoration and new construction of the Hewlett Hotel. I will have to recuse myself for this project.
Morning.
Morning. Go ahead, Denver, when you are ready.
All right. Just to know whether we're ready to go. So, okay. We're happy to be here this morning to present our schematic concept design for the Hewlett Hotel. With me today, I have Conway Padron, also from Vocon. We're the architects for the project. And online, we have James Asimus, who is the owner and developer for the project. Next. And next. The project site for this, we're all probably very familiar with, is on West 25th Street, just south of Detroit Avenue, between West 26th and West 25th. There are two existing buildings. I think if we go to the next slide, it'll be a little clearer, possibly. Context views, there we go. The project is made up of 2 existing buildings and the property between and to the west of them. We're going to interconnect, restore, refurbish the existing buildings, add to them, and create a new boutique hotel called the Hewlett Hotel. It will include ground floor retail and restaurant, and a new rooftop bar with great views of the city of Cleveland and the future Irish Town Bend Park. And there will be 6 boutique specialized apartments associated with the hotel as well. Here in these images, we're seeing the existing building, the site, all sides. Upper left there is on West 26th Street. So currently it is a surface parking lot surrounded by chain link fences. And the image number 3 on the top from the left is on Church Avenue, looking north. And we see one of the existing buildings, 1468, with the mural on it, just peeking out there on the edge. Next. This site is located within 2 designated historic districts. One of them recognized at the national level, the Detroit Historic District, a very small segment within the larger Ohio City Local Landmarks District. It's also in the city of Cleveland on West 25th Street, under a pedestrian retail overlay district, so which shapes some of the things that we can do with the frontage and the uses, all of which we're compliant with. Next. A few highlights just in terms of zoning considerations, and then get into the details of the plan. The yellow represents a new infill building between the existing Case building, which is 1452 to the north, and the Nelson Block 1468 to the south. We've set the new infill building back 5 feet from the right-of-way and the other buildings, the maximum allowed within the pedestrian retail overlay district, and also did that to give a little more prominence to the original 2 historic buildings. On West 26th Street, you'll see that we noted a 6-foot parking setback to the reconfigured parking that would occur on that portion of the site. Next. These are simply 2-dimensional elevations speaking to the height of the new proposed structures. So what you're seeing here at the top, the east elevation, building to the left and the right being existing, the darker brick building in the middle being the new, and then a new west wing on West 26th Street peeking up behind the other buildings. Next. And then again, similarly, just showing how that the 4-story building, the new west wing, is kind of discreetly tucked in amongst its neighbors, which are varying heights. Next. All right, so here, first floor, we'll just quickly walk through each of the plans so we understand the program and how it's positioned on the site. 1452 West 25th being the north red block of building will be used for future retail. And as we pointed out earlier, the yellow box representing the new infill building. And this area will be the hotel lobby, lounge spaces with access to the parking to the west. And then 1468, the first floor hotel restaurant, restaurant that serves the neighborhood, the restaurant, and the rooftop bar. And we've integrated 2 new elevators and a stair into the existing 1468 building. The small wing to the left of the restaurant there at the lower left, that is a new kitchen extension for the restaurant. There is an existing larger one-story appendage on the 1468 building. We will be demolishing that and then building this new smaller addition. The existing one-story portion that we're removing is kind of a combination of multiple additions that were done over the years and is not a part of the original historic 1468 building. And this would also be a good time to point out that this project will be pursuing historic tax credits. We are working with Diana Wellman in terms of that process. So everything that we've done with respect to the design of the renovations and additions has been done in concert with her to get the approval for our part 2 and ultimately successfully apply for tax credits. Next. This is the second floor, and so first thing I'll point out is to the left there's a block of building and a bridge that connects back to the existing buildings. So it's hotel rooms and residential on its top floor, above open parking. So on the first floor. To the right, we have the 2 existing buildings and the infill building configured all for hotel rooms. Next. The third floor, the 1152 building drops off. It's only 2 stories. The new infill building continues up, as does the 1468. And the third floor of the new west wing is identical to the second with the bridge. And then next. Top floor, a little different. The infill building being set back significantly to allow for a roof terrace with the views to the city and the future park. And then the 4th floor of the new west wing being the 6 apartments. Next. And just for reference, the 2 existing buildings do have a lower level or basement, and the new infill building will as well. We'll interconnect those. The basements will be used for storage and services for the retail and the hotel. Next. Next. Within the immediate neighborhood, we looked to the historic district in terms of how we might approach the infill building and the new west wing, as well as how we might work with some of the missing components of the 2 historic buildings. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So this is simply representative of our context. So a fair amount of variety in terms of fenestration patterns and approaches to storefronts. Next. This is the photograph of the 1452 West 25th Street property. Notice here we had enough imagery that we could figure out what the 2nd floor windows were. It's our intention to replicate those. And it also gave us indication of the storefront, which again, you'll see in our elevations. Our intention is to replicate fairly closely the original storefronts as well. Next. And in this image, we get a little glimpse of the 1468 building down the street. We don't have any photographs of its original storefront, so we're taking our cues from other buildings in the district in terms of how we're reconstructing that. Next. So this is a series of views for the proposed new development. Starting at the left, the 1468 building with the existing windows on the 2nd and 3rd floor restored. The brick will remain painted as it is today. And then we'll develop a new storefront at the first floor, with the section to the right being an operable nano wall or similar product, all designed to still look like and be modulated in a way similar to historic storefront. And to the right, the 1452 building with reconstructed storefronts and second floor windows. In the middle, the new infill building, it's 4 stories. From a pedestrian viewpoint, it's really looks like a 3-story building. The 4th floor steps significantly back, allowing for that roof terrace. We've taken our cues for the new windows in this infill building, most similar to the 1452 building. And then you'll see some views a little closer where the entrance to the hotel is a little modern twist and kind of a indicator that this is a boutique hotel and something different is happening inside. Next. And then just pulling back a little bit to show how it integrates into the overall context. To the far right, where you're seeing the mural, you see the new 4-story west wing kind of peaking above everything, and the 4th floor of the infill building peaking up with the proposed new Hewlett sign, which is similar in character and style to many signs that used to exist in this part of the city. Next. And we get a little closer to the left, get a little closer to the entrance, and you can see this more sculptural entrance element. Proposal includes ultimately there would be an outdoor dining terrace associated with the restaurant, the 1468 building. Next. And the view from the south, see this all in context again. At the moment, we're proposing to maintain the mural that's on the south side of the 1468 building. Next. As we move around to the south, this is looking from Church. Looking north, we see the mural to the right, the bridge in the middle, and just a peak of the new west wing above that existing red brick building. Next. And then here we are at West 26th and Church. And you see a bit of the new west wing peeking up above the trees. Next. And then from Detroit and West 26th, looking south, the new 4-story building there at the bend on West 26th. Next. Then a little closer on West 26th, and start to see how this comes together. Our design approach with this was to create a fairly simple building, modulated with a large-scale window that's a little referential to industrial buildings that do exist in this part of the city. A similar kind of multi-pane approach to the windows. The material you're seeing here proposed to be a zinc colored fiber cement panel, open parking below with an ornamental fence and landscaping creating an edge. Next. And then a few other images, upper right, straight on elevation. I see right through to the historic buildings beyond, and lower right, kind of that courtyard space that is created by the west wing being pushed to the far west of the site, separating itself from the historic buildings. Next. And that's it. A lot of pieces, parts. It's kind of a, it's been actually exciting challenge to work with two existing buildings and then knit them together and add to them and think about the neighborhood and existing buildings and historic tax credits. So we and the development team are very excited about it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Denver. I'm going to jump in with the design review report. The Ohio City Design Review Committee generally like the project. They'd like to see a height study done to show how the proposed structure on West 26th would fit in with the Cryle House and the church across the street, in addition to the buildings on Detroit and 26th. There were a lot of positive comments about the design of the West 25th Street elevation and the rehabilitation of the historic buildings. And the added contemporary yet compatible connection between the two buildings was felt to be appropriate. Although there's some comments about the contemporary entrance that some people felt out of place, some people really liked it. Also comments that the West 26th elevation could use some additional detailing. Given the materials and use in the surrounding properties, the committee felt that a warmer color palette might be nice to see. Potentially making the piers and the parking area brick or adding some kind of color to the panel system above. The committee generally indicated that the 26th Street elevation needed some variation and some use of color, potentially texture. That's that report. And then I think Jessica, do you have a staff feedback? Or unless Nate from Ohio City, do you have anything to add?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nate Lowe with Ohio City Inc. I just wanted to add that this project, in terms of community engagement, this project was seen by the Franklin Clinton Block Club on April 27th, 2023. It'll be presented at our upcoming community meeting, which is on Tuesday, May 16th at 6 p.m. at Urban Community School. It's open to all to attend, and it'll be live streamed via Ohio City Inc.'s YouTube and Facebook pages. And we're looking forward to conducting further engagement for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Jessica, did you want to share staff feedback?
Yes, thank you. So staff is mainly in agreement with the design review committee. Feel the West 25th elevation is a good knitting of the two buildings together. The project is currently being reviewed by our zoning colleagues for any considerations there. And we would like to see more information on the West 26th elevation, possibly other renderings showing the connection or closeness to the Cryle House on Church, and also agreed with the design review committee that the West 26 building could benefit from some further development or color or detail in that respect. But we're generally in support of the design.
All right, thank you, Jessica. I guess with those out of the way, open it up to the committee for comments. Anyone want to get us started? Carter?
Thank you. Yeah, sounds like the design review committee kind of stole a lot of what I was going to say, but I want to elaborate and maybe provide some things to think about going forward. So first of all, yes, I very much like this project. I like what you're doing. I like the 25th Street elevations, that infill, the thoughtfulness of the window forms, that there's some articulation to the brick, I think makes a big difference in being contextual here. Bit of a contrasting brick color from the others, but complementary. I think all that's working well. I like the setback. I like the idea of a contrasting, more modern entry, but I think that the particular sort of V-shaped form you have here is kind of fighting what you're doing with the rest of the building and not really providing weather protection. So I could imagine something that's maybe more of a glassy, sort of classical modernist projecting vestibule, something like that. You definitely want to identify this as the entry to the hotel, and as that there's something sort of new and interesting behind there. But I just think that the form you've selected for this is fighting the rest of the building facade. So that's my thoughts on that. If we could go to page 31, I think it is, that shows the, yeah. So the fiber cement board, is that an open joint rain screen system that you're doing for the facade?
We have not detailed it that far. My initial thought is that it would be a closed joint system with aluminum reveal pieces.
You might want to think about a rain screen. It's a good, performance option. Am I reading this correctly, that the windows project out from the plane of the facade?
No, there's actually a trim detail that projects out from the plane of the facade. The windows are in line.
Okay. I do think those little shadow lines help give it a little articulation. And I would also echo the comments about the color. We see a lot of gray and black and dark gray. It's appears to be very trendy. I think that, in 5-10 years, it's going to look dated. So I would encourage you to explore some other options for coloration. I don't know that the brick pier idea works here. Maybe it does, but I would definitely give some consideration to some other use of color back here. I also understand that you're trying to be deferential and you want this to be more of a background building as seen from West 25th, and I appreciate that. But I think there's some opportunity to bring a little life to this and make it a little more welcoming. But overall, I really like this project, and I like you've clearly given a lot of thought to how you're treating West 25th Street, and it shows. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Benezzi?
Thank you, Mr. Musson. I only have about 2 things. Could you just go to page 24? Most people have stolen all the comments that I was going to provide, so I'll just continue my support, and that I'm excited about this project, particularly the sign. I love people homaging to old hotels, and there's already a precedent on the street for signage of the building next to us, but it just inherently makes you feel something reminiscent. Particularly about this thing that I like, I just wanted to confirm this. All of what you're planning at the moment is the same color for all of your gray, correct? This is just the sun angles coming in that's giving this variation from the courtyard, because that courtyard space looks darker. Well, it's not the court, it's the connector. You get what I'm saying.
Yes, that is correct. One color.
Okay. And then to expound upon what Mr. Edmond was saying about your entryway, I think particularly the way at the ground plane that it angles back towards the building is really not making it feel like a present feature that is grounded as a sense of entry. I just wanted to further help with the linguistic explanation of probably what's feeling wrong about that entry. Otherwise, my comments will echo what everyone else has said. I think an interesting thing here, which I'm noticing already from the sun angle, because you're going to get south-facing light across this facade, is maybe if you didn't particularly think about color, but if you thought about patterning or texturing of your material in a way that could provide visual relief in a natural way, that as the sun comes in, it's going to provide texture and things and articulation. That could be a way to not to go to the kitschy end of like, well, let's just put a bunch of materials on the building, but you can be really thoughtful in the articulation of the way that the shadow and light is going to play against a singular material. I think that'd be a really refined and sophisticated approach towards further articulating this kind of modernist box in the back. Otherwise, I'm very excited to see the project and see where it keeps going.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benezzi. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Musson. I want to say I'm, for the most part, very pleased with the 25th Street elevation. I like that it's stepped back a little bit. I want to echo a lot of Mr. Edmonds' comments. I like the color of the brick. You know, I think the articulation with the brick is a nice feature. I agree with Mr. Edmonds and many other people on the local design review commission. I think the entrance is not working. It has kind of a mid-century modern feel to it. It just seems out of place. I don't know if there's some kind of an awning that could be put there that will alert people that this is the hotel entrance, but would be more consistent with the surroundings. And as far as the new construction on 26th, I agree again with Mr. Edmonds that the gray is just too much. There's just too much gray. I'll be honest with you, of all the projects I've seen of new construction that's come before us in the last few years, the building I like the best is the one that Denver Brooker designed on 25th around the corner there. The biggest issue I have with it though is the cinder gray. It's just sad. I don't know how else to how else to explain that. The gray is just doesn't work for me. And I think the building needs more articulation. I think that's one of the things about the West 25th building that I like so much is there is so much brick articulation there that it keeps it really interesting and makes it visually pleasing. The window frames, I think they almost look like a frame of a picture on a wall. It just I've seen this in some of the other buildings, and you know it just seems a little bit out of place for the historic district. I don't know how else to best explain that, but you know, maybe there should be some variation in those frames. But anyway, I think that's what I have to say. So hopefully some of this is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Any other comments from commission members? All right, seeing no raised hands, Mr. Burker, do you feel like you've gotten enough feedback from the commission to move forward with working on your final design?
We do, and there are many subjective things about how you integrate something into a historic district without being, we say, replicating it or trying to completely copy it. So some of the details and the material color choices were made with the thought of not being exactly like what is there, but just being a soft reference to it in some cases, particularly the windows and the elevation we're looking at now. And if its frame detail is a little bit different, in our mind, that was okay. But we're certainly going to explore it based on the range of comments we've heard. There was the one comment, I just want to go back to that, where I believe it was originally the Franklin Clinton Block Club that had asked for the height study. And the two-dimensional elevations that were included in this presentation were added to address that consideration. And this is putting them in height context with structures immediately adjacent or in front as you move around the site. Not sure what else this group or any other group would like to see to help them understand, at least in our opinion, that the new infill building and new west wing are appropriately located and integrated relative to height. We are in a zoning district that would allow a building up to 115 feet high, and we're considerably less than that.
Yeah, the height study that you concluded, I think, is helpful, and it seems like what the at least the Ohio City Design Review Committee was looking for, just to get the relative heights of everything surrounding it. I don't know if the commission members feel that something more in depth would be helpful moving forward. Mr. Edmond, you have your hand raised.
Speaking for myself, I'm satisfied, and I think the heights are completely appropriate.
Good, I appreciate that. Other than that, our next steps is to continue with the process of the State Historic Preservation Office, get our approved Part 2, and apply for the tax credits here in this late summer cycle. And as we kind of collate your comments with any that come from SHPO's office, we'll be updating the design accordingly.
Great, thank you. We will we'll be here when you're ready to go back through the design review and commission process.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. At this point, we'll get bring the chairwoman back out of the waiting room. Or she seems to have disappeared. I guess would Mr. Benezzi, would you mind stepping in his chair just to go through the minutes?
Of course. I didn't see your thing earlier, Mr. Musson, about facilitating earlier, so I apologize. Moving forward with the meeting minute approvals, we have the May 28th, 2020 meeting minutes, the August 13th of 2020, September 24th of 2020, and April 13th, 2020. Is there any discussion to be had about these meeting minutes or concerns? Not seeing any. Does anyone like to put forward a motion to approve these meeting minutes? Mr. Edmond.
Moved.
I will second Joyce Wong.
Perfect. Mr. Musson, call roll.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Benezzi?
Yes.
Mr. Clicchia?
Yes.
Mr. Dreyer?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gray is still out here. Director Wall?
Yes.
Mr. Trosick?
Yes.
Mr. Acting Chair, the minutes are approved.
Perfect. Do we have any administrative reports for today?
Sorry, I'm just seeing if it doesn't look like the first applicant showed up. So I guess, yeah, at this point, administrative reports. We do have a site visit scheduled for a city demo on East 55th Street that's scheduled for Monday at 3 o'clock. An email was sent out to the commission members. We're hoping to see as many of you there as can make it. For our second meeting in May, we're planning to have staff back in room 514. And then for our first June meeting, we'd like to invite commission members back to City Hall as a first step towards hybrid meetings that will give applicants the option of coming into City Hall to make their presentations or doing it virtually. And then finally, this November has 5 weeks, with the 4th week falling on Thanksgiving. Since City Hall is closed on Thanksgiving, we won't be able to have a meeting on the holiday. So we'd like to add a meeting on the 5th Thursday of November. So that would be November 30th. Since we'll be getting 2 meetings out of November, we'd also like to cancel the December 28th meeting as it falls right among the holidays and seems like it would be difficult for people's schedules. So we'll make that adjustment to the schedule of adding November 30th and removing December 28th as a trade-off. Unless there are objections to that.
Did you say the next meeting was planning to be in person on the 25th?
Staff is going to be in room 514, just kind of working out any technology kinks that we have or identifying any. But then for the first June meeting, so that'd be June 8th, we're hoping to have some commission members in person, room 514.
Yeah, I just
for the hybrid
it's
model.
on my calendar before I forget.
Yeah, any concerns, comments about the November, December meeting schedule changes? If not, we'll go ahead and make those adjustments. So yeah, otherwise, I guess, Mr. Benesi, if you'd like to adjourn the meeting.
I'd like to say we can adjourn, enjoy the sunny weather for once, not 40 degrees and rain like last week. So see everyone in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think under an hour and a half might be a record.
This is one of our records for shorter. So
thank you all.
Thank you.
everyone.
Everyone.